Hi, my name is Francois, and this is Super Teachers Unite, the show dedicated to finding out what it takes to teach like a superhero. Now, all of us had that favorite teacher when we were at school, and they were very influential early in our lives, and we remember them fondly. Now, in every episode, I'll interview business leaders and other super teachers so that they can share the stories about the super teachers in their lives that were so influential on the successes that they made of their lives. Now, they'll share stories from the classroom, but as well as the boardroom. In every episode, our guest stories will assist us in finding out, especially if you're a super teacher, what it is going to take to improve your practice. And if you're a business leader, how will you improve your people, your processes, and your profits? Now, if you need me to assist you in finding out how you can teach like a superhero, check out our website at staysuper.co.za. Every teacher should have a way of supplementing their own income. Only relying on your salary as the only means of money or of revenue for you and your family is a major red flag. So in today's episode, I chat to Nic Haralambous. He is a successful entrepreneur, global keynote speaker, and best-selling author who has started the Slow Hustle Fund, where you can apply to get funding as well as business coaching for your side hustles. Now in today's episode, he shares with us exactly how to start your own side hustle, but more importantly, also shares the traps that people fall into when they think they're going to make a quick buck. So I hope you're going to enjoy this episode. Definitely check out Nic's book. It's called How to Start a Side Hustle, which is also the name of this episode, but I'm sure there's going to be value for all teachers out there. So Nic, now that the audience knows you from the introduction, and I know my teachers, they're definitely going to want to stalk you throughout this entire conversation. Where is going to be the best place for them to stalk you?
So the first place that I want to tell people to go to is LinkedIn. I am the most prolific there. So that is just search for me, Nic Haralambous. There are very few people named Nic Haralambous on LinkedIn. You'll find me. And then go to my personal website, sign up to my newsletter. It's nharry.com, nharry.com. And the final thing that I'm promoting at the moment off the back of my book is my company, Slow Hustle. That is slowhustle.org.
Well, okay, great. So we'll link all of that into the show notes and the comments so people can go and watch that. But speaking of your book, I've got a copy of it in my hand. That's amazing stuff. I've started reading it. Full disclosure, I haven't read the entire one, but in our conversations and getting to know you, I know it's an absolutely amazing read, and I can't wait for us to get into this discussion. But before we delve into this, I ask this question to all of my guests, and I'd like you to tell us a tale or a story about a teacher that really made an impact in your life.
I have a few. I loved my teachers. I was one of those irritating kids who liked to learn. I hated school, but I liked teachers. So first one was my art teacher in primary school, Mr. Pereira. I even carried on doing extra art classes with him all the way through until matric. Very sad story. He ended up committing suicide about 15 years after I finished school. So that ended sadly, but he helped me understand that you can see the world in a different way. That was art. Then Mr. Folds was my English teacher all the way through high school, and he always pushed us to be at a higher level. It was never good enough just to speak English. You needed to really speak English and live the words and like read it. And to this day, I credit him for people still asking me when they meet me, so where's that accent from? I'm like, from Stanton. I grew up in Stanton. It's just a private school, you know. And then the last one, he was never a teacher of mine, but he was my headmaster, Mr. Paul Eady. He's relatively well known in the Joburg space. He was headmaster at St. David's, went on to St. John's, has had some tough times there, but he always inspired us to be better humans. School was never just about getting grades for him. It was always about helping us understand that we should be better people. And I think that also came with being at St. David's. It was very morally sounded education. You know, the Catholics, they love that stuff. And I ended up being head boy of my school, and Mr. Eady and I grew quite close. I've got a small story to go along with this. When I was 16, I forced my mother to set up a meeting with me and Mr. Edie. And I walked into Mr. Edie's class and I sat down and I said to him, Paul, I'm really bored. And he looked at me dead in the eyes and he's like, Nick, wait until you get to matric. And he's like, cool, thank you so much for the meeting. And he let me go. And I was like, that's it. Seriously. He's like, trust me, you're bored because you're in grade 10. Wait until you get to matric, then you won't have this problem. And he was right. I was at school from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. almost every day of the year because I was head prefect. So Mr. Edie was my guy.
That's amazing. Now, first of all, kudos for having the kahunas to go up to basically one of the principal of the school and saying like, listen, dude, I'm bored. Like what
An arrogant kid.
But why? Number one, why do you think you were bored? And then number two, what gave you the guts to speak to your teacher in that fashion?
So number one, I was bored because I wasn't challenged. So I was at a very run-of-the-mill school. St. David's at that time, it's changed now, had the stock standard subjects. We had the stock standard extramural activities. And at home, I was teaching myself to play guitar and learning a different language. And I was trying so hard to extract more out of being a kid. That school bored me. I like to say that school taught me how to learn the rules, but ignore them. I knew the rules just enough so that I could bend them and do what I needed to do so that I could move on. School wasn't, it was just about getting good grades, moving on and like ticking all the boxes for me. And that's why I was bored. And what made me have the guts to talk to a teacher that way? I didn't actually know another way to talk to teachers. I never felt like teachers were special. I never felt like they were unique. I never felt like they shouldn't be challenged. I've always had this streak in me where I thought, no, you don't know better. Prove to me that you know better. And again, I'll give you a short story as an example of this. In grade 11, I had a science teacher who hated me. And at one point, she refused to teach me because I was so disruptive. I kept saying to her, but I don't understand, please stop. I don't understand, please stop. And eventually she was like, shut up, I'm not teaching anymore. And I was like, cool. Came to mid-year exams. And on the pen, on the exam, I wrote, please refer to, and my housemaster's name. Every single question in the science exam. And I said, please refer to Mr. Macmillan, please refer to Mr. Macmillan, because he said to me, if you don't want to get taught by this woman and she doesn't want to teach you, I can't help you. So it's like, cool. And I managed to get standard average and pass that science exam. Because teachers are, in my world, they're people who are supposed to make you better. They're not these incredible aura build. They were just normal people doing their best. And that's kind of how I approached everybody.
So that's stark contrast to my view of what teachers are, what teachers should be. In that,
Yeah.
you know the concept that I work with is like I believe teachers should be super teachers. But it sounds like the teacher that you dealt with was one of those mediocre teachers, one of those teachers that just basically pitched for the salary. And
exactly.
There are other challenges, of course. I know that the pressures of the curriculum and trying to like deal with 30 kids in a classroom and getting through all of the content, getting people exam ready, that puts a lot of stress on teachers. But it happens so often that you get a headstrong learner in their class, like Nic Haralambous, sitting in their class. If you could speak to those teachers today, knowing what you know today, what advice would you give them when dealing with a headstrong learner like this?
First thing I would do is apologize, because now that I'm an adult, I know how hard it is. I know how hard it is to earn what teachers earn, to have 30 screaming, previously advantaged asshole kids telling you how to do your job. Like, I would never, ever have treated some of the teachers now the way that I treated them back then. So I would apologize first. The second thing is, I think that the school system doesn't cater for headstrong students. I think the school system caters for the average. So there's nothing that a teacher can do for a headstrong student other than give them the freedom to be themselves, help them understand that it's okay to be headstrong, it's okay to be a voracious learner, but it's not okay to be disruptive. There's a difference. And I didn't understand the difference. I was being rebellious and I wasn't being constructive. But a lot of the teachers tried to box me. And at that age, I didn't want to be boxed. I was too intelligent for being boxed. I was like, I see what you're trying to do. Don't try and box me. So yeah, I would say talk to them at their level. A lot of teachers at that time, Catholic school, old school thinking, this is 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, lots of condescension towards kids. Kids were there to listen, not speak. And I just never understood that. That's not how I've ever been. I always speak, and then you can convince me otherwise. So yeah, I would say just let headstrong kids be themselves.
But I think there's still a lot of that in schooling in general. I think a lot has changed, and maybe in the specific school, culture has changed. but I do think that there are still very traditional, very like legacy thinking teachers and administration in schools that's still going to butt heads with these headstrong kids. And we're seeing it more and more that kids have got access to information. They don't need teachers to tell them what the content is. Like a headstrong kid will definitely go and figure out things on their own. And that's probably where they challenge teachers. And if the teacher isn't on their A game, the teacher doesn't know content, or at least doesn't know how to socially deal with a kid like that, it's going to be chaos.
Dude, I would have been orders of magnitude more snotty if I had access to Wikipedia and Google. So I cannot imagine what teachers go through now with arrogant, cocky, privileged kids who think that they know everything and have Google. Oh my goodness, I would have been such an idiot. So I empathize. That's why the first thing I would do is apologize to my teachers.
Yeah, no, great stuff. So, Nic, we've started a recruitment company called goteach.co.za, where we hire teacher assist schools in hiring teachers. Now, what I like doing is speaking to people from various backgrounds, especially for entrepreneurs and business owners, to try and distill what are these traits that really make somebody employable. So in your experience, what are you looking for when you're either hiring people or deciding that you want to work with people?
Yeah, so I'll start with the story that led me to this point. I finished university with a journalism, politics, and philosophy degree, and I was a little bit concerned about getting a job. So I went to my dean of students at the time, and I said to him, what on earth am I going to do? And he said, Nic, let me explain to you what big corporates are hiring for straight out of university at Rhodes. I said, cool. He said, philosophy master's degrees. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? He said, well, you can teach anybody to be an accountant. Those skills are very learnable, but you cannot teach people how to think. And philosophy teaches you how to think. So I took that and I ran with it. And to this day, the thing that I hire for above everything else is a voracious and obsessive curiosity. If someone is curious and intelligent enough to understand what they don't know and then go and learn it, then they're for me. That means that they're interested, they're intrigued, they're not just a yes person, they're going out to see the world for what it is. And you cannot train that. I can train someone to be an effective video producer, but I can't train them how to be curious to be a better video producer. That's on them. And then the second thing to add to curiosity is someone who knows how to execute. I don't like people who are curious but flaky. I want curious and execute. I need you to have a plan, think about it, know how to make it better, and then finish that plan. Because the way that I operate is, you've got a plan, I'm going to let you do it. I'm going to give you enough rope to hang yourself. Hopefully you don't, but if you do, then we'll both learn. So curiosity and execution.
So if I'm a teacher and I want to instill these skills or these values in kids, how would I go about ensuring that they learn curiosity and being able to execute?
So the first thing that I don't think that my school taught me around curiosity is asking questions is absolutely imperative. They're not a pain in the ass. And at school, I felt like, oh, I'm going to ask another question and I'm going to get in trouble. Even at university, I'd be the guy who 3 minutes before the end of the period, I'd put my hand up to ask a question and everybody would be like, oh my God, dude, shut up. So Elon Musk, and to be fair, Descartes, first in my readings, 100 years ago, came up with the idea of first principle thinking. We should instill in children that it is okay to go down to the very first principle of everything. What is the basis of the thing you're trying to learn? If you're trying to understand chemistry, do you understand the atom? Do you understand the nucleus? Do you understand how the universe operates? Because you can't talk about philosophy if you don't understand that there are atoms in the world. These things are intrinsically tied. But if you don't allow kids to explore this never-ending depth of the world and read vast and wide, you've heard me say this before, Francois, I like the idea of smashing together of unexpected things. School doesn't really allow you to intermingle these unexpected things. They keep them quite separate. You're in science class, you're in math class, you're in English class. They never come together. So first principles thinking allows students to go to the core of what they are and then pull together all the different parts to come up with a different interpretation of it. Execution is a little bit more difficult because I was a lazy kid, which made me a great student because I found the least resistant path to an A. But I didn't learn at school. I learned how to learn and then regurgitate. So I don't actually know how you train for execution and how you teach it. I think it's intrinsic. And when you see someone with it, you need to help them make it better.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like identifying that as a strength in somebody and then enabling them, like creating this environment for them to grow within that superpower of theirs, just creating that substrate of, okay, you've got this skill. Let's see how we can enhance that. That's what I would deem a trait of a super teacher, is that they see these things and they create the environment for it.
Couldn't agree with you more. And I think the thing that really frustrated me about a traditional Catholic school upbringing was that everybody was the same. We were all in the same uniform. We were all trained to think the same. When the truth is, I should never have taken science. Never in my life should I have taken science and math. I should have taken a business and art and geography and got through. But nobody helps you customize your school experience for yourself. Maybe Montessori schools, who knows? But my school was pick a subject, get it done, shut up, and get your grades. And kids are unique, but different. And the thing that scares me the most, I've got a niece and nephew, a couple of nieces and nephews. I don't believe they're being trained for the world that they're entering. They're not being trained to be resilient and agile. They're trained to get grades and write exams. That scares the daylights out of me, because what if you're bad at writing exams, but you're great at long-term projects that are 5 years in the development? That's the life. Life is not about exams. So yeah, I struggle with that.
And I agree with you, because the way in which the world of work works is very seldom you're going to sit on your own and you'll have an hour or 2 hours to solve a problem or answer a set of questions, where in the real world, you'll be part of a team, you'll be able to discuss the challenges, and you'll have more time to solve it. In general, I mean, if you're a neurosurgeon and somebody is like coding on the table, that's a whole different story. But in general, we need to foster or create these environments in schools that mimic what the kids will experience in real life. And I don't think that's happening.
Agreed. And also adding to that, building on what you're saying, it's not a one and done world, whereas the schools teach you that if you fail, it's over. And it's not. Where in life after matric do you fail something and you're done? In the world of work, you get chances to approve your work. You get multiple iterations. You have months to do it. You've got budget to get it going. There's no room in which you sit, and if you don't get it right in 2 hours, you get fired. That's not the world. It doesn't exist that way. So yeah, I agree. I think school, that's why I said earlier, I learned the rules and now I ignore them, because I knew what the rules were at school. You need to pass matric. That's what I aimed for, the bare minimum. Science, speaking of science, I got 33 1/3%, just enough to pass matric. I barely got a university exemption because of that.
Well, we are glad that you gamed the system, you came through it, and now.
So is my dad.
Now, as an entrepreneur with experience, you've built a bunch of businesses, you're a successful entrepreneur, and it seems like now you're giving back the lessons that you've learned. Number one, you've placed a lot of them in this book, but you've also started the Slow Hustle Fund. So let's start with the book. Why the need for writing the book?
So the need, I just write. I'm a writer. I've been writing since I was 7. My first book is behind me, Do, Fail, Learn, Repeat. I just don't know how not to write. So I write. I've got a blog. I've got multiple newsletters I send every week. The latest version of this was in the middle of a pandemic. Everybody else is panicking. I thought, how can I help people? What do I know? At the same time, you and I are on a program that is helping us find our area of authority. I was going through that experience and I realized that my area of authority, 20 years of building, I built my first business when I was 16, is starting. I know how to start things. So I thought, let me help people start things. And I've got this book it's not a business book. It's more of a philosophy on how to live a life that allows you to build a business. And the philosophy behind what I'm trying to help people understand was applicable to the world of COVID. You need to get a good mindset. You need to have a lifestyle that fits a business. You need to have good relationships. And then you can start thinking about a business. If you don't build all of those things, the business is irrelevant. It won't survive. So I took 20 years of how to start things and condensed it into a short book. And the rest is published history.
So many teachers are struggling at the moment financially. We're seeing a lot of retrenchment. The job market for education is flooded with the new students that just came out of university. We don't have as many teachers retiring, and then the retrenchments that's happening on top of that. And I believe firmly every teacher should have a second stream of income. So I think that a book like this that's going to teach you principles on starting this side hustle is so important. So I advocate for all teachers to absolutely read this book, and I'll be sharing my thoughts on it on social media as I work through the book. So I'm totally excited about that. But you've also have the slow fund or the slow hustle fund. I think I butchered the name.
It's the slow fund. No, you're right. No, you haven't. It's the slow fund.
Tell us about the slow fund, and can teachers apply for it?
Yes, I will do that. I just want to comment on the ideas that you've just spoken about. I think it's a really important thing that people understand that a stable financial future is a diversified financial future. Whether you're a teacher or a 100 millionaire, that is how people build stable financial futures. It is not embarrassing to have a side hustle. It's not embarrassing to need more money. It's not negative that you have to work a little bit harder. We live in a world globally, it's not South Africa, where everybody is struggling to beat inflation every year. That's just the world we live in. So it is a sensible thing to carve out a couple of hours from your day so that you can do something that is fun, that generates some income. So the one thing I want to say to people is pivot towards your skill set. Do things that you know how to do and figure out ways to unlock extra income from them. If you teach languages online. If you're good with science, do videos about fun science things online. There's lots of things you can do to earn income within your capabilities. So then onto the slow fund. I was thinking about how to market this book, and it's a very difficult time to launch books globally. You can't have book launches, you can't see people. And I came across this idea. I wanted to start a fund in 2022 to help people build their own side hustles. But I thought, let's kick this forward a little bit. And I chatted to my publishers and decided that instead of using any of the marketing or advertising budget that I was going to use to promote the book, I would put it all into a fund. And for the next 365 days, I'm going to be funding one new side hustle every single day with 1,000 Rand. I'm also giving every single person who wins the 1,000 Rand 30 minutes of my time for coaching. They also get a Yoko Go machine, and some of the side hustles will become eligible to get a once-off loan from a company called Bridgement of 20,000 Rand every quarter so that they can help scale their business even further. So that's what we're doing.
That's amazing. Now, the first question that I want to ask on this is, why the decision for 1,000 Rand? Can 1,000 Rand really make a difference for somebody starting a side hustle?
Yes, so it's a fair question, and it's one I get asked a lot. 1,000 Rand might not seem like a lot of money to a lot of people, but you'll be surprised how many people live close to the break-even breadline of their salary. And that means that you're losing or breaking even on your salary every single month. You earn 5 grand a month, you spend 5 grand a month. That is human nature. There really are two ways to become financially independent: earn more or spend less. So I advocate for the spend less model. And if you can't spend less, 1,000 Rand is the difference between you spending that money on stock to get your side hustle up or not, because you either have to pay your bond or start a side hustle. So that's 1,000 Rand. The other issue here is that we think of 1,000 Rand as a little bit of money, except on average, there are around about 17 million South Africans who earn 3,500 Rand a month. So I'm actually offering up 1/3 of the average South African salary every month. That is a huge amount of money to a lot of people. It's very sad if you look at it that way, very heartbreaking. And let me tell you, of the nearly 9,500 entries to the slow fund, there is a brutal amount of people who are desperate for any number of money. It's really intense. But the main reason 1,000 Rand is because I don't advocate for silver bullet businesses. I advocate for slow burn, consistent, long-term, sustainable side hustles. So the idea here is take 1,000 Rand, turn it into 1,200 Rand. Take that 200 Rand or the other 1,000 Rand, save the 200, take that 1,000 Rand and make it 1,500 Rand. And slowly over a period of 2 years, scale your business from 1,000 Rand a month to 10,000 Rand a month. 10,000 Rand a month means you're paying for your house, or you're paying for your car, or you're going on a new holiday every 3 months. That's a lot of money. And it only takes you 2 years to get there.
And that's why it's so important to have the coaching attached to it, because a lot of people, as soon as they receive the money, are going to spend that unwisely because they've heard something or their cousin said, this is what you have to do with capital. But the coaching from an experienced entrepreneur, I think, is more valuable than that 1,000 Rand that you get.
Yeah, and I was surprised by this. A lot of people have said to me, don't care about the money, I just want to talk to you for 30 minutes, because a lot of people struggle with finding mentors, and I'm one of them. I've never had an official mentor in my life. I've never had a business mentor of any kind. Only recently, in the last 5 years, I've started attracting the kinds of people who can help me. But this is why there was a very careful thought process to how I put this together. So we select you, we give you a 30-minute coaching session. If you qualify after the coaching session, we send you the money. Then you send us the receipt on how you told me you'd spend the money, and then we give you the Yoko Go machine. So there's this check and balance throughout this process.
It's not just a hand me down. You receive everything one go and now you're left on your own, because that's not sustainable. And I think it's well thought out. And I really think, and I think you've said it so many times on social media, that I think the resolve or the saving grace for us after the pandemic or after the lockdown is going to lie with small businesses and entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been saying this for a while. Big businesses like Vodacom and Standard Bank, they're not employing double the amount of staff in the next 10 years. It's never going to happen. The only way we increase employment in this country and save those people without jobs is to create more Vodacoms, more Standard Banks, more F&Bs. We can't all of a sudden magic and hopefully they fix us. It's not going to happen. The government's not going to save us. There's no money there. So it's on us to diversify, privatize, and make money.
So from everybody that applied for the Slow Fund, were there any teachers that applied?
I've gone personally through 3,500 entries so far. I still have a long way to go. And I have not had any official teachers apply. I have had some people wanting to start tutoring businesses. But the tricky part is, and the weird part is, when they apply to be a tutor and money for tutoring, they don't tell me that they're qualified to be tutors. So nobody has actually been awarded the money for this, which is really strange to me, because in teaching, and I count myself as a teacher because I've got an online program about starting side hustles. There's so many ways to make money as a teacher that I'm so stunned that there aren't more applications.
All right, so that's going to change after this podcast interview. Please, let's get our teachers applying for this fund. And definitely, if you where can they go to find out about this the course that you just mentioned?
If you go to slowhustle.org, everything will be there. The program is kicking off next week, so the whole website will shift to focus on the program and the fund from next week. But sign up to our newsletter at slowhustle.org and you'll get all the information.
Awesome. So by the time this episode airs, that will be live. So teachers, go out. I mean, this is such a golden opportunity for people to, because we've been asking, like, how can we get a better financial life, or how can we increase our income? And this is such a great opportunity. So Nic, I really commend you on this, and I think it's such a great project. Then the second thing I want to know, or probably the next thing I want to know, school kids. Did any school kids apply?
So we've had no school kids apply through the website. And look, it's a little bit complicated. Obviously, there's a website you have to go to and the questions you have to answer. But my old school St. David's have reached out to me, and I am working on a way to integrate my book, the program, and the fund into their curriculum. So I'm trying to help them understand that the theory of business, and I was told recently that the business economics course they do in grade 10 is one lesson for entrepreneurship, one lesson, and it's 10 points, and then they're done. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. So I'm going to be helping them build a slightly more diverse course, that the outcome of the 3 or 4 weeks that we work with these kids will be that they can apply to the fund, and I will earmark funding specifically for school kids. So if there are any teachers listening to this who are interested in the same, please contact me. You can hit me up at nic@slowhustle.org, NIC, and email me. Let's find out if we can do this. And I'm going to trial the course at St. David's, and then we will bring the program into whichever school around the country wants to help me build this into part of the curriculum.
Yes, that's an amazing opportunity. Teachers, like, yeah, there's so many opportunities. So absolutely, everybody listening or watching to this, I hope Nic's inbox server crashes. His website goes down because all of the teachers are applying. Now, Nic, prior to this interview, I saw so many posts on Facebook. Facebook is the place for teachers. Teachers are like, they're on groups en masse. And often there's a question where they ask, like, what are other teachers doing to gain extra income? Now, I went through some of these posts, and I've identified 3 like categories that teachers typically fall in. And I wanted your opinion on whether you think it's sustainable or a good idea or not. All right.
Okay.
So the first one being reselling. And there's a lot of this happening. The Herbalifes, the Aniques, I think there's a new one, Manatech or something like that.
New Skin. Oh.
So there's a lot of teachers doing these type of reselling. What is your opinion on that?
I don't want to hammer down too hard. I've been told I'm too aggressive on this, but please don't waste your money on MLMs. Multi-level marketing is a scam. It might be a legal scam, but it's a pyramid scheme. Genuinely, they are. There's some key questions you need to ask yourself. Is your customer buying your product, or is your customer being recruited to give you money? That's the key thing. Where are you making most of your money from? From selling product to a customer who uses your product, or from recruiting new people? If 80% of your income comes from recruiting, you are in a pyramid scheme and you're going to get scammed. But please, just don't do it. It's not sustainable. Your family will start hating you. Your friends will start hating you because all you knew is recruit other people. Please listen to me. Don't do it. It's a scam. Don't do it.
If I get invited to another coffee to chat about a vacation program, I'm gonna scream. I sat through one of them and I left halfway through it because I realized that I am becoming the product, and that's not.
And I empathize, Francois, because there's a lot of desperate people, but that's what these MLMs do, is they target people who are struggling to make money. They target previously disadvantaged people, disenfranchised people, and they take advantage of your last dollar. Don't do it.
There's an amazing video by John Oliver where they do an expose on multi-level marketing. And that blew my mind. The whole fact that even if everybody on the planet participates in this, let's call it a scheme, you can only go 14 levels deep. And that's if like 7.5 billion people participate. You can only go 14 levels deep. And I mean, that just sold it to me. Like, this is not sustainable. It doesn't make sense.
So crazy. So crazy.
Yeah. So the other very popular thing, and I'm glad you mentioned it, is this extra lessons or tutoring. What's your opinion on that for teachers?
I love the idea of extra lessons or tutoring or expanding your offering, really, because you've got a global market. There's no need to only teach kids or people. It doesn't even have to be kids in your country. There is such a huge world out there. If you go into Upwork, you go into Fiverr.com, just put a website up and do lessons over Skype. So I was brushing up on my Greek over the pandemic last year, and I had a lady who would hit me up on Skype, and for 30 minutes once a week, we would talk in Greek. That's it. I paid her, I think, $40 a session. Great. That's 800 Rand a session. Wonderful. So I absolutely think that's a good thing. And you're pivoting towards your skill set. So there's not a lot of extra work for you. There's no learning curve. It's sustainable. You do it 3 times a week or once a week, depending on what you work out for your budget, and you're golden. I think it's a great, great little side hustle.
So there is quite a lot of regulation around teachers earning extra money through their own skill. To give you an idea, you have to declare if you earn extra money as a teacher. So
is that local in a country, or can you do it online?
So that's where I think the iffiness is, because there's no clear lines about this. Everybody you ask who is doing a side hustle says they know of the fact that you should probably declare it and get permission from your principal / the district that you're part of, but very few people actually do it, and I don't think people get reprimanded for it.
That is an aberration, man. I don't understand that. If you aren't competing with your school directly, I think that is absolutely absurd and outdated and legacy crap. I'm sorry for all you teachers out there if that is the case. But there must be loopholes that involve things like you're teaching science, you can't be competitive in science, so go teach a peripheral subject. You can quickly brush up on something, go teach a language. There's so many other ways to teach. It doesn't have to be curriculum-based rote learning. You can be a teacher and you're good at teaching. Yeah.
But I think if we can circle back to the start of our conversation, like, be headstrong, like, question these things. And I think that's very important, because the only way which we change this is if more and more people start doing it. Now, of course, it can't be interfering with your full day work. I mean, the first moment that your side hustle isn't a side hustle anymore, that becomes a problem. And no employer ever is going to stand for that.
Absolutely. However, as a teacher, you need to be sure that your contract either allows you to do these or not. And if it doesn't allow you to do them, then gather up enough teachers and change the contracts. Like, you have the power to do that. You have the agency to do that. You're not trapped in this world. You can renegotiate your contracts if you have to. I think that it is sad and crazy if contracts do prevent teachers from using the skill that earns them money. It's a very sad thing. With that said, restrictive contracts, they don't hold up in a court of law if it is your main way to earn an income. So if you quit your job and you've got a restraint of trade, they don't hold up in a court of law if it's your only way to earn an income. So there is a leg to stand on there legally.
I'm not an expert on this, so I wouldn't vouch or move into these waters, but I really think that there's scope for teachers to do these kind of things. And like, we shouldn't just be sheep and just say, oh, well, okay, I can't do this, and now I'm struggling for the rest of my rest of my life.
Yeah, because listen, the school system is broken. Whether owners, principals, they recognize it or not, give it 15 years, the school system is going to be vastly different. So you may as well start making waves now.
And that's a good point that you make, is that we should start diversifying our skill sets, because when it happens that education is going to be decentralized, there's going to be a lot of heads falling. So if you don't have a transferable skill and you don't know how to move into another market, I mean, that kind of spells the end.
Yeah. And I mean, if you look at publishing, and me as a writer, writing used to be about go to a newspaper, go to a magazine, be a writer. 15 years ago, I started writing on a blog called WordPress. It was when it started. I'm still writing on that same blog. I've been writing every single day of my life for 15 years, and nobody pays me to do that. In the beginning, they do now, but I just took control of it. It's been decentralized. The same with teaching. You can build an audience and then teach them and get them to pay you, or write a newsletter about teaching. It doesn't even have to be about teaching. You can have peripheral things that help you generate income that aren't competitive to your main income.
Absolutely. And then the third one, and I like this one, is teachers who create their own products and then sell these products. To give you an example, we interviewed Melissa Kaplan from Yuffie Clothing. She is a teacher, but also she's got a fashion degree. And she meshed the two, and she started making clothes for teachers, and created an online business, and now moved like full time doing that. That's Yuffie Clothing. Absolutely love the work that they do.
Yeah, and I love that kind of left of center thinking, because not only did she create a clothing line with a skill, but she could also create a YouTube channel teaching people how to create clothing. There's so many iterations of this. Like, you're only limited by your curiosity, and that's what I hire for. So what I really try and help people understand is, if you're struggling, you need someone else to help you read the label from inside the bottle. Get somebody to help you with perspective. Ask them, and I do this on my program and in my book. Ask the 5 people closest to you, what would they pay you to help them do? Maybe they'll pay you for advice. Great, then start giving people advice. Maybe they'll pay you to write neatly. Great, then do that. You don't know. You never know what people will pay you to do. So ask, be open, be curious.
Yeah. So one of the things in the book that I've gotten this far that I've read that is this junction between success and failure. And I'd like you to explain to us, what do you think is success, and why do people, or why are people so afraid of failure?
Yeah, so really sorry to say this, but people are so afraid of failure because our schooling system teaches us that if you fail, it's over. And it's deeply entrenched in us. If you don't succeed at first team rugby, you're a failure. If you don't, whatever, we all understand. And that's fundamentally just not the way the world works. I woke up today and I've failed 17 times. I've been a bad partner. I've crossed the road badly. We fail all the time, but we just think of them as the ways we live. We have to think of failure as the way we succeed. And I like to tell people, and I do it in the book and on my course, failure is not an end point, it's a through point. You have to figure out what you're getting from failure. What's the value? The other thing you have to do is try and fail as small and often as possible so that those failures don't break you. Then tied to that is, don't wait for anything to be perfect. There is no perfection. Perfection is perilous, is what I like to tell people. If you're waiting for this idea to be perfect, you're dead. It's too late. Because then when you release it and it isn't perfect and people don't like it, it hurts you so personally that you never do it again. So I've spent a lot of time working with my psychologist, trying to understand that my self-worth is not the work that I do. That if I fail, I am not a failure. I have just failed. And there is a subtle but important difference there that most people don't grasp, that when we fail, we break. And if you learn that your self-worth is more than this thing you're trying to accomplish, you will accomplish more, because it won't matter if you fail.
There's so many things I want to transfer from that just into the life of a teacher, because we often measure ourselves by the grades or the success of the kids that we teach. Our performance is often measured by how many distinctions we get for grade 12s or how many failures there were. And a lot of teachers struggle with mental health issues just because of that fact, that I am a bad teacher if 2 or 3 or 5 of the kids in my class fail. And that's creating a massive havoc for teachers' mental health.
Yeah, and it's crazy. I mean, mental health is hard enough just on a normal day, never mind in a pandemic when you're trying to homeschool your kids, teach other people's children, be a good partner. Like, it's just crazy. And really, this lesson of detaching your self-worth from the things you achieve is such an important thing to work on, that you need to do the self-work. You need to figure out, where does it come from that I believe that my value is only good if I get 12 distinctions? You're more than that. You're more than your job. You're more than your work. And we're not trained to believe that, but you are. That's why the first 50% of my book isn't about your business. It's about your mindset and your lifestyle and the relationships in your life.
Nic, this has been absolutely amazing chatting to you. Leave us with a final tidbit. If you could speak to a teacher now and you could tell them anything, what would that be?
Oh, these broad questions always catch me. I would say that you all know that your jobs are exceptionally important, and I think that that puts an unbelievable amount of pressure on you. But I would like to remind you all that you're only teaching 18-year-olds and younger. They grow up, they'll be fine. You're not changing the world. You're just helping them be the person they're going to be. Like, it's okay if you make mistakes. And then on the side hustle thing, go out and do it. You've got an idea, you're protecting it, stop protecting it. Just put it out into the world. Start trying to make one sale. And before you do that, buy my book and I'll help you make that one sale. But really, the problem is we protect our ideas too deeply. Your idea is not special. I've had it. Francois has had it. It's not unique. Just put it out into the world and see if anyone wants to buy from you, because a side hustle needs to make money. And that's what you're about.
How to Start a Side Hustle by Nic Haralambous. Go get your copy. Go sign up to his newsletter. I read it every single week. Nic, thank you for spending time with us. I'm looking forward to the journey into the future.
Thank you, Francois. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Stay super. Well, that's it for today's show. I hope that you found value and that your classroom or your boardroom is now a better place to work at. Please go check out the website staysuper.co.za to find out how my keynotes, workshops, or mastermind can assist you in teaching like a superhero. Until I see you in person or chat with you online, stay super.